And here we are.
And here we are. Welcome, everyone, to Palantalk. We're just getting ourselves started and getting the show streams online on
Absolutely.
Substack and YouTube. But welcome. I did a solo show on Monday for Palantalk without Shane, which was still super fun. And we did sort of a part one of minimizing your metadata and maximizing your impact, which I think is a good mantra for a lot of us.
Absolutely.
And it went really well because we talked about actionable things. And I
Right.
think that's really important that we talk about is actionable items for each other, for ourselves, different ways we can be active in the community, but also how there we go, live is up, and how we interact with each other. And so I just I'm glad Shane was able to come back and get me for midweek. So it's Palantalk, y'all. Let's
It's
call out some
Palantalk,
techno
and
fucking fascism.
I couldn't miss out on it. It's one of the highlights of my week. Hopping on Nick here and talking shit about technofascism. As is our right. So I was in the car on Monday driving. So Nick and me managed to sort out another time this week to chat. In alignment with technofascism and AI, I have some things that I want to bring to the table for all of you guys to understand today as well. And share information is always important. And then I would also love to touch on those actionable things as well that Nick was talking about. But there's been a lot of changes in every day, right? Every day in America, they sign something that does something horrible to something else, right? That's just where we're at. So in regards to that, as I was prepping for the show, I went on Reuters. I was looking at, the technology column and AI. And there was one really weird thing I wanted to just throw out there. But one of the things I did see is Hurricane Aaron right now is forming off of the coast of, I believe, South Carolina.
Yeah.
And, that reminded me of just the enormous environmental effects that result from AI and the use of these data centers and the power required for them. So I decided to kind of look into some of the executive orders that have been signed in regards to that. And it took me in a very interesting direction. And so one of the things I'm going to kind of share with you today is a little bit about the accelerating federal permitting of data center infrastructure executive order, which was signed in July on the 23rd. But it's so easy to miss all these things, right? But I'm bringing it back now because I wanted to kind of talk about what these companies are doing and how that's going to affect people like in South Carolina, and what it looks like on a scale as well, how it's affecting local populations around these sites and how it hurts Americans in a very big way. But before I get into that, I was looking and I saw an article, Nick, and this was just crazy. But actual human influencers are losing revenue to AI influencers. People it's AI avatars that are actually replacing human influencers. And when I say human influencers, I mean companies are choosing to pay these avatars, their owners, for social media advertisement and partnerships instead of actually working with people. And I wanted to kind of get your take on that, because that was just, we know these things are happening, but what are your kind of thoughts on the repercussions of this shift and the fact that we actually have corporations choosing avatars over real people?
Yeah. There's a lot to unpack there. Uh,
Yes, there is.
so, great intro, Shane. I'm trying to figure out if my image is correct also while we're doing this. Just give me a second. I just want
No,
to
for
see
sure.
what happens. Does my flag look forward now? Because my flag looked backwards before. And yeah, there we go. The flag was backwards before.
You had to change your mirroring.
Yeah, there we go. Okay. Sorry, y'all. I had my mirroring on and it fucked with the flag. I don't like having my flag backwards or in the wrong way.
The
Because
veteran in you.
unlike maggots, I am a veteran who actually cares about this country and the Constitution and the meanings and our symbols. And it's important to have good symbols that represent the right things and do them in the right way.
Yeah,
But going back to what we're talking about in the AI space and corporations choosing the AI over humans and the environmental impacts and um, the local impacts on our societies and what it does to us individually and as communities. Let's start with the local impacts because that's really where it hits home first. And that's where people are going to really start seeing it first, I think, is when Shane's talking about that they're pretty much getting unrestricted access to, or there's an executive order that states they can have unrestricted access because executive orders are just pieces of paper until they're carried out. They don't actually mean anything and they're not law until they're carried out. So we have to remember that is executive orders don't actually do or mean anything until they're carried out. So I'm going to keep saying that. So we need to stop framing things in right wing terms.
Right.
So these executive orders, which they believe are mandates, which they're just orders on a piece of paper that says this is how they want to do things, wants to deregulate AI and the manufacturing and support structures behind it so that they can more easily build the systems to grow AI faster and without care for what it does to the environment. So we can see of places like, we'll stick with local for now, and then Shane, you can cut in and we can start talking about things as they go on that too. Is you see in communities where giant data centers are being built, and I think there's one in, I think it's Kentucky,
Yeah, I have them all
or
here.
Louisiana.
So the one you're talking about is the Paducah Gaseous Diffusion Plant.
Yep.
And it's in McCracken County, in Kentucky.
Which is poisoning the entire environmental system.
The
It's
water
destroying.
table.
Yeah, it's destroying. Imagine it's like the attempts when like we look at old videos and movies of LA, like old movies of LA. There's a huge smog line that sits on top of the fucking city all the time. That is environmental deregulation. That's air poisoning and pollution. People ask, why do so many people have cancer these days? Why are there so many unexpected illnesses? Well, I don't know. Maybe because all you people before us, not you people as in you guys who didn't have any effect on this, but you Republicans and corporatist Democrats who sold us out to the industrial complex and now to the AI complex is in deregulation, poison the fuck out of us to do it. So yeah, no wonder we have all these fucking diseases. It's because you assholes gave them to us and poisoned us with your deregulation. So what regulation does is it prevents your rivers from being able to be lit on fire like they were in Chicago or in Boston or New York or in LA or anywhere that there's a water base where that's super poisoned. These rivers are going to become gaseous and flammable. The air is toxic. Like think Flint, Michigan with the lead pipes, but on steroids.
Yeah. And so
they're building these things.
Yeah. So we have 4 sites that have been selected by the Department of Energy as of right now. And there's 2 terms that I kind of want to talk to you guys about. And they're outlined in this executive order. So there's a Superfund site and a Brown Fund site. I believe. A super fund and brown. I just was looking at it. Super fund and Superfund and brownfield is the other one. So a Superfund site is somewhere that has already been talked about by the EPA, and it's been designated as extremely hazardous and heavily contaminated. Okay, so one of the core aspects of this executive order that he signed was that the EPA needs to remove regulations on developing these Superfund sites. So when we talk about a Superfund site, we're talking about somewhere that they were literally enriching uranium or building nuclear weapons or any of these things, right? Like these are the worst possible
Toxic
places,
wastelands.
toxic wastelands, like actually where they bury toxic chemicals in the dirt. And they're talking about going in and digging these places up, turning up all this earth. And then on top of that, these AI data centers, they require, and the infrastructure for these places, they require like 5 million gallons of water a day just for cooling. So we're talking about entering the water table of these already contaminated places. And now we're talking about moving water that affects predominantly extremely poor populations, very poor groups of people in these cities. They're not cities, to be clear, they're towns, right? They're
Yeah.
towns. They're in rural areas. They don't have good access to medical care.
It's
They
like
don't.
populations of between like 200 and 5,000. Like
Yeah,
that's what we're talking about. They're
yeah,
taking communities that are rural areas that are typically MAGA and red, and they're poisoning them. They're poisoning their own constituents because they already told us they don't fucking care about
right,
us. Like another thing with the water too is water is a finite resource in
correct,
this world, especially potable water,
correct.
which is drinkable water. Drinkable water and arable land are two of the most finite resources in the plant on the planet. And they want to take over both to build AI tech centers, which sure, great, fine. Let's have AI. Let's win the AI race. But let's do it in a way that doesn't destroy the environment while we're doing it. Because we have these things called wind turbines and solar panels and wave generators, and we have all of these hydroelectric power. Like, yeah, cool, nuclear is a great idea, but it takes 10 fucking years to build a nuclear site, like a nuclear plant. Like, you can't do it fast. It's not a quick project. It's not a, oh hey, we got a new nuclear site up and running. And no,
Right.
putting little nuclear reactors in every city as a micro reactor is a recipe for disaster when your government wants to set off a nuclear bomb.
Yeah,
And
totally.
when you then have takeover of people like Palantir and fuckheads who want to just destroy everything and monitor everybody, guess what happens when you have city by city by city by city individual power plants is they can shut them off from central locations and your city's out of power.
Yeah.
Sucks to suck. If you live in a blue state, they're just going to turn all your power off.
Right. And you also see, both these Superfund and brownfield sites, they are usually under cleanup, right? So what they've done is there's a certain policy through the Department of Transportation that you have to go through to actually get the permit rights to develop one of these sites. But
Yeah.
they're leveraging a type of permitting called Fast 41 that allows them to pretty much skip all of the red tape and start these projects. Um, and one of the really big and concerning things here is if we look at who's actually funding these four sites, right? So the big names you're gonna see them right away: Google, Meta, Amazon,
Mhm.
OpenAI, Nvidia. Every single one of these companies has
NVIDIA
bent the knee.
fucking pisses me off that they're doing that shit because they were such a good company and they've done so many good things for the software world and the computing world in general and the gaming world and just graphic design and graphic ability. Fuck you, NVIDIA. Fuck you.
Yeah,
Fuck you for selling out the people who value you and care about your products the most. It's just like Oracle. It's just like Tesla. Fuck you guys. Like, fuck you people. You people took took what we cared about and weaponized every single piece of it against us. So fuck you. Like
Yeah.
just go fuck all the way off. And and that list of companies that Shane you just rambled off.
Yeah.
Guess who also just got embedded in the US Army Reserves in Detachment 201 for the Executive Innovation Task Force? Meta,
OpenAI.
OpenAI, and Palantir,
Yep.
with 4 senior commissioned officers, like lieutenant colonels, one step away from a full bird colonel, and then you go to general. And guess what? Donald Trump is the one who sits over the general boards because he's made it his own fucking personal army, which it's not. And he can go fuck himself. But Tiny Tank Trump is, I don't know what to do.
I don't know.
Give it up to Putin.
He's honestly, the other day, I think I might go to hell. I gotta end the war in Ukraine because I'm gonna
Yeah, I need to go to heaven. I want to go to heaven.
There's no
I'm
way, buddy. There's
dying in dementia. No way I'm going to heaven because I
Jesus
fucked
is
those
gonna
little
bitch slap you
girls.
back to earth, dude. Just get out of here.
God's going to look at it, if there is a God, or St. Peter, like going from the Christian side. Like St. Peter will be outside the door writing on his list. He's going to look down at Trump trying to come up the stairs, and he's just going to fucking Sparta kick him.
I was gonna say this.
And
is
he's
Sparta,
just going to just go, "This is heaven," and just kick him off the fucking ledge and just go, "Bye, bitch."
I'd convert right there if they got
video
of that.
I wouldn't convert because I have questions. I got plenty of questions, especially because I'm Jewish. And hey, Catholic Church, can you guys give us all of our stuff back from World War II,
cool.
like our family heirlooms and shit? Like that'd be fucking cool. Can you do that? That'd be really nice. Stop being shitheads and give our stuff back, Catholic Church.
Yeah, Pope Leo, you're pretty cool, but quit being.
Yeah, dude. You want to be reformist? Come on. Give us our shit back. Like the Jewish people gave you in good faith their family heirlooms and treasures to protect during World War II. The families have asked for them back, Catholic Church. You should fucking give them back.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I have a just a quick side story. I've been into, St. Peter's Cathedral, and I've walked all that way, and they would make Trump's White House, it puts it to shame. The amount of gold and global wealth that they have there is just ridiculous. There's just no reason that it needs to all be concentrated in that tiny space. The world deserves its history back, and I firmly believe that we have, and it in the interest of a church that's trying to spread its own religion, to collect artifacts and cultural icons and whatnot, and suppress them and hide them in the spirit of trying to spread your religion. You would want to take those things away. So I've always suspected that what's under the Vatican would change the course of human history forever, and that's specifically why it's not there.
Yeah, most likely. There's some weird shit about the Vatican. Like they've taken a lot of documents. Also, the early Christians were the ones who burned down the Church of the Library of Alexandria and stole all the books. So
I think the scrolls are there.
Catholic Church, like we'd love to see what's underneath the Vatican. I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I'm just asking. I just want to know what's underneath, because it would be interesting for human history to know the truth and know what's there and see what knowledge is left in there. And if you guys are hiding things that are like really important and really neat, like if there is anything useful or like conspiratorial that could be answered in there, like come on, release it. Like why not?
We want the Epstein files.
If Jesus actually came back to life, like wouldn't you guys want to show us the proof? Like you guys probably have the Epstein files.
That's what I was gonna say.
At this point, Trump has gone like eagle hairdo. Eagle jizzed his hair into the fucking Vatican's vault and put his Epstein files down there. Yep. That's probably where he's stored half the secret documents that he stole and stuffed in the trash cans at Mar-a-Lago.
Yeah, if you hear this, Pope Leo, release the Epstein files.
Yeah, Pope, come on, dude. You're an American, man. You got this. When it was told when America was at its lowest point politically, we would have the first pope, because you cannot have a pope while there's both power in the political structure and the religious structure that's from America, or we would take over in the worst ways possible.
No,
But now we have
absolutely.
a progressive pope, dude. You're an American too, man. Protect your country. I know the church comes first and God comes first, but you're an American. Stand up for it.
Absolutely.
Anyway,
And
that's far afield from Palantalk, but like,
yeah,
release the shit, release the files, man. Come on,
and
bro. You can do it, Don.
and we have a tendency to wander, and that's okay. But to go back to kind of you were talking about the actual things that cause cancer, right, in these
Yeah.
plants. So we have 4 sites. One is going to be in I'm probably pronouncing it wrong, but Paducah in Kentucky. You have the Oak Ridge Reservation, which is going to be in Tennessee.
No,
The
it's probably.
Idaho.
Can you drop it in the names too after?
Yeah,
Sorry,
I'll
I
send
interrupted.
you all of this research after I'm done. I
Yeah,
just
because
did it.
I want to know the names too, because I think it may be Paducah.
Paducah. It might be Paducah. It's Paducah. So maybe I'm pronouncing it
Paducah?
incorrectly.
Maybe. I don't know. We'll have to find out. I know someone
Uh,
who's a linguist, so we'll
oh,
figure out
cool.
some enunciations.
Yeah. Oak Ridge Reservation, that's going to be in Tennessee. Idaho National Laboratory, that's in Idaho, of course, and the Savannah River site in South Carolina. So the Paducah gaseous, it's got extensive groundwater contamination, and the chemical is tri trichloroethane. Okay,
Okay.
and it's a active isotope of
Paducah.
technetium
Somebody put
99.
it is
So
probably Paducah.
okay, um, and we're looking at Oak River in Tennessee. 700,000 pounds of mercury are in that environment. The EPA has said they're going to need until 2043 to clean that up. And now we're just going to say, actually, we're going to build there. So let's even think about that for a second. We have rich AI companies willing to, if you're willing to shell out over $500 million, they're going to fast track your data center and the power required. And they're just going to say, yeah, we have 700,000 pounds of mercury, in that environment, but we'll churn it all up, and you can build there. In Idaho, the National Laboratory, I believe they tested nukes there. I'm pretty sure.
You know,
Um,
nothing too
and
big.
yeah, exactly. And so they've got all kinds of radioactive shit. And it's right next to the Snake River Plain aquifer. So we're talking about water, water for local populations. And the last is going to be near the Savannah River. And they made nuclear weapons there. So it's got a radioactive wasp nest. They've got radioactive wasps. So,
That sounds fun.
so we're just looking at this stuff, right? And we're not even thinking about like the environmental impacts. And effectively what they said is the EPA, you're going to revisit your regulations to be in line with these companies. And the thing is, we say, and to Nick's point, an executive order is not law. But in some of these cases, when their organizations are under the executive branch directly, they just will fire people until they're able to put interim roles in, and they allow
Yeah.
these things to happen. And lobbying has increased like ridiculous in 2025. So it was out of control before. Now we're seeing hundreds and hundreds of millions, probably billions of dollars going
Can
into
we
this.
can we like reframe lobbying finally? It's corruption. It's
Yeah, yeah,
corruption. It's legalized.
yeah,
Let's stop
absolutely.
calling it lobbying at this point. Nobody's lobbying for things. They're corrupting politicians and buying them off. That's what it is. We
Yeah,
need to words mean
right.
things, and in the time when they want to corrupt everything and make us
Yeah,
soft and not use the right words, let's use the right ones. Because I was an interrogator. I learned how to do this. Like I learned how
yeah,
to talk to people. I learned how to use words. And one of the big things that they taught me in the army was words mean things. You use words because they mean things, and the
yes,
right words mean a lot when you use them really well.
yeah.
So I'm not calling you out. I'm calling
No, no,
everybody else out is let's stop using their words to talk about things. Lobbyist is a corporatist, fascist word for corruption, for
absolutely
legalized corruption,
correct.
blackmail, and illegal money laundering. That's all it is. That's it is. That's what it is. They're corrupting politicians through illegal money laundering and disgusting habits. So cool. Fuck them. They're
Yeah,
no longer lobbyists. They're just blood sucking
they're
pieces of
criminals.
shit.
They're
Yeah, they
criminals.
are. They should
They're
be.
all felons. They're all pedophiles. They're all drug addicts, and they only are interested in satiating their own sick desires. And that's, you're right. It's not lobbying. It's corruption. So they're going to call it what it is. And of course, it's lobbying. Of course, it's corruption, because look, they're allowing through this quote unquote you know lobbying, now corruption, that we're going to reframe it. Right? We're going to reframe this corruption is going to allow them to build a massive site next to, get this, a predominantly historically African American community located less than a half a mile from this complex in Tennessee, right? We're looking at, they're choosing areas that directly impact African American populations. And this is not like some sort of coincidence, right? Let's look at the the states specifically. Kentucky,
Yep.
Tennessee, Idaho, South Carolina. The three of those states right there were core in the Civil War. They were core Confederate states. They deeply cared about slavery. And those historical beliefs, they don't just go away when you sign the 14th Amendment. They never did. We saw sharecropping, we saw Jim Crow, and now we're seeing these rich techno-fascists who are deeply racist choosing to build in sites that will kill minority populations. This is
And
not
poison.
like poison
Slowly
them.
kill. Slowly
Yes.
kill. Not quickly kill. Slowly kill minority populations.
Correct.
Knowingly through policy. And that's the thing we need to start calling out, I think, really is the inhumanity of it. Is
Yes.
the exact inhumanity that's going behind AI and the fascistification, or whatever we want to call it, of America. That was a word I just made up and tried to get all the syllables right.
Pacification.
Facification.
I like
Let's go. Let's go. Facification of America.
Yeah.
Is there's no humanity behind it. It's Curtis Yarvin's theory of technology. It is Peter Thiel's theory of technology. Is there's no humanity behind it. They don't care about the human cost. So we have to call it out, because they're never going to care. And if we don't call it out, it won't ever get cared about.
Yeah, Rachel, she said it's a form of eugenics, and I think that's exactly right. So these people, we're gonna call them shitheads, and they're stupid, and they're idiots, and they're morally, bankrupt and pathetic, and have to use their money and power to enhance their form of masculinity because they have no confidence whatsoever. Yes, but they also are trying to run this country like a business. And they're maximizing their resources. And if they want to get rid of minority populations, they're gonna double down. They're gonna go to the most toxic waste site. They're gonna build it, and they're gonna pull water from the water table. They're gonna make it so it's harder for these people to get water, because we're talking about using enough water that a town would use in a day, every single day. So their natural resources alone are going to be siphoned off. Not to mention, you're messing with the water table. Those contaminants are going to spread. We're talking about being near rivers. Okay, so the repercussions go beyond anything that we're talking about. And the attack on the EPA, and it's not been talked about because there is so much going on. But what's going to kill a lot of Americans? One, you have the natural disasters, lack of relief from FEMA. But the EPA was not standing in front of business. The EPA was trying to stop corporations from killing us with all of these, emissions and all of these radioactive waste and all of these things. They were trying to clean up these places. They are now going to start churning up the earth. They were saying 2043, which means that they've been working on this. It wasn't going to be safe until 2043. So, gosh, how much shit is in there? And once it gets into the water table, those places become unlivable. They're not people, or they become basically a slum, which is what they want, where they're probably going to push minorities into these areas and use it as a form of eugenics to cull out these people.
Yeah. And I think that's a really good point we need to call out to is the eugenics of it. Is it's on purpose. Like
Yeah,
policy like this that is designed to harvest the most resources and the most utility with the least humanity are intentionally eugenic because they
yeah,
only ever favor one group. And that group doesn't have to mean same biological like race group. Eugenics also mean like traits that they care about, like the hereditary traits of like they think masculinity is a certain thing, so their eugenic model believes that you have to use like certain masculine things. That is a type of eugenic adjacent behavior. And then they get rid of, just like everything about fascism is, it's zero sum. It goes down to one. It always goes down to one. So if you don't match that one, you're out. And so
yeah.
none of these folks, you and I definitely don't. We don't match his one. We don't match the one of Trumpism. We don't match the
Mm-mm.
one of this fascism, the one of Curtis Yarvin or Peter Thiel, because we actually have empathy and we value people. They don't want that. They despise that because they think it's weak. And we're
Yeah,
not weak because of it. In fact, we're stronger because of it, because we understand other people's problems and we go, shit, that might happen to me one day, because it is still a selfish thing, because you can go, shit, that happened to somebody else, that might happen to me one day too. I don't want that to happen to them or me.
right.
And then you stop it.
Yeah. And,
But eugenics is killing people on purpose, targeting groups instead of putting them in concentration camps and death camps or putting them in labor camps or
you
things
make the
like
death
that.
camp where they are.
Yeah, you turn the home into a death camp. You turn
Yes.
home into poison. You poison the water sources. You poison the food sources. It is a form of warfare by the government against us. It is tyrannical.
Yeah, it's horrific. And one of the ways we say like, okay, like how are they going to do that because they still need a permit to build on these places? Well, one of the things this fast permit types does is it creates exclusions. And it gets them around the National Environmental Policy Act, NEPA.
Yeah.
And NEPA mandates testing. They need to test the site before they're able to build. Well, that's going to allow them to basically go to these Superfund sites and the other areas that they're trying to develop to attack these minority populations. And mind you, there's places they could go that aren't radioactive and full of contaminants. Like they chose to activate these sites that were already polluted. So they could have gone and attacked, because they hate the environment too. Maybe they wanted to go, they could have gone and chopped down a whole forest and
Yeah,
and
they could have.
deforested an area and built up a new one. But they chose to go to a toxic area located near minority communities to do this tyrannical form of eugenics. And
Also,
yeah,
one of the reasons it's choice, but it's also not, because regulation does not allow them to do this on BLM land, which is Bureau of Land Management owned land. They cannot do it on our public lands. So they have to do it on land that's already decimated or already. And those lands, if you notice, most people didn't live on until poorer communities started coming in, and those poorer communities tended to be immigrant communities of some sort that were less white,
yeah,
and they revived towns that died because there was work that came into there, or somebody opened up a new factory that was still poisoning the ground, but they weren't telling them about it. They said it was safe. And all of this is eugenics. Like there's a reason that people are getting more vicious forms of cancer, worse diseases are happening. Like one, it's the anti-vaxxers, but it's also, like you said, eugenics. AI has the capacity for an amazing amount of good,
yeah,
has the capacity if we were to ethically design it and ethically run it. And that
right,
means not killing a whole bunch of people to make the power sources or the data centers, and finding power sources that are renewable and reusable, that don't poison the environment and in fact can be used to clean the environment,
right. And
like geothermal
yeah,
or hydro or wind or solar. Ooh, solar and wind.
it's
Ooh,
actually
big
said. I was
scary
reading
things. They're making the
today.
birds, they're killing the birds and making
Yeah,
the whales batty.
yeah. And I was reading today that regardless of his hatred for solar, it's slated to be 50% of our power production in the next year is solar. Okay, so regardless of what they're doing, they won't even be able to undo this clean energy because they need so much more energy. They're going to
Yeah.
have to keep what's there. So, all of this is talk. And what they're going to do, though, is, and it's interesting, but, I got some additional, I wanted to talk about this because we're talking about sites, right, that are potentially being used right now that are already dangerous. But
Yeah.
even if they're able to free up some of this land, the ramifications of these data centers, and one of the things we talked about is the lack of potable water that exists,
Yes.
right? So a large scale AI data center, it's using 5 million gallons per day, and most of that is evaporated, which means it's not even going back into the water table. So you're looking at the amount of time that it effectively doubles the reduction of a water supply in a given area,
Yeah.
if a small town. And then we also have to think about, this is already a finite resource. If you look at Phoenix, okay, Phoenix, they had irresponsible zoning, and they're running out of water. It's seeing hotter and hotter and hotter days. I think they had 55 this last summer. And these companies, they didn't properly zone the outskirts, and they actually just decimated the water tables around Phoenix. And what that happens, it has lots of results. We're talking about the entire land, all of that earth is destabilized. It affects your infrastructure, your roads, it affects your water supply, it affects the overall temperature, because you don't, water is important. It is a mover of heat. It's an exceptionally important resource. So even if you go to a place hypothetically where there isn't any like radioactive or a brownfield site or a Superfund site, you're still talking about decimating that area's water supply. Like it's it would be one thing if they moved it through and it like went back into the water table.
Yeah.
Maybe you could argue that that's sustainable. And I'm not saying it would be sustainable, but you could argue that. But when you're talking about just pumping 5 million gallons of water into the atmosphere every single day, like none of these projects are even sustainable. And that's one of the things too that is interesting, because it shows, in my mind, a sense of short-sightedness, that these people are
Yes.
so greedy, they're so selfish, and they only see the goals, and they don't listen to scientists. And I think that's also an important thing, is they don't actually listen to the science, they don't care about the science, and they will build in a place where, they'll screw themselves, and they'll kill lots of people in the process. But it's not even, they're not looking at longevity, they're not looking at the science, what the EPA is telling them. They're looking at how quickly can I get this up and running so that I can maximize this period of instability, to get as much as I can out of this. And
Yeah.
the corruption that goes into the government, that all that money that's going in there, that's going to get them, where they want to be. Like freaking Tim Cook brought his knee pads to the Oval Office, and
Yep.
gave Donald Trump the treatment, right? Like, even all of these guys, it's about getting in front of the people who are gonna, fire who's in your way.
It's a there's something psychological. Ellie Leonard talks about it. Is there something psychological that she thinks happens? And I think I agree too. Is there something psychological that happens when you make a certain amount of money and you've at least been raised in a power structure? Because you see it mostly in male billionaires over female
Mhm.
billionaires often, is where you're raised in a power structure where no one is able to say no to you or ever says no to you in a way that you can't just find a way to get around at some point. It just breaks their cycle, their ability to ever feel emotion for anybody outside themselves. And like it's a new breed of like insanity, is like billionaireism is an insanity, because all you want to do is destroy everything just to get yourself power.
Yeah,
And that's fucking gross. It's
yeah.
also really hurtful to everything around you, like the environment, to the people, to your technology, other things like that. Give me a sec. I'm going to go off camera. I'm getting a phone call, but I'll still be
No
here.
worries. I'll on to roll with what Nick is saying. And that kind of change. Me and my fiance, we were talking about this the other night, and there's a certain something, like you said, something happens. And I believe that this is even more serious in not people who acquire that level of wealth, but people who grow up in wealth, benefactors of extreme nepotism. You reach a point where you just kind of, all you've ever known is that your family has had money. You've never had to work for anything. You've never had to do anything to have money, to have wealth. But the thing about people is we always tend to want to have more than our previous generation. We want to add to the legacy. Legacy is a very big part of being a person. It's why we have kids, right? Because we want our legacy to continue. It's a very human part of us, right? We want to feel like we left something when we leave. But if you have only money and you've only ever had money and you never have anything other than money, the only thing you could achieve in your life is more money. Like, that's it, because nothing else matters. It's more money. That and power over others and the ability to abuse other people and treat them like dirt and kill them, because those are the only avenues, right, that you can have. It's an abuse of power and more money. And though that creates a form of psychopathy where you have to be, it's only really possible to do that if you're completely sociopathic and you have zero empathy and you don't care about anything because you've never had to care about anything. And that is what these people are. And, I was talking to, when I was talking to Frederick during the Banner and Backbone live stream,
Yep.
I was talking to him a little bit about this. And, I was telling him, like, hey, the PayPal Mafia, they formed all of this and they built this system for this purpose. And he challenged me. And he said, I don't know if they built it for this purpose as much as they turned around at some point and realized they could do it.
Yeah.
And that really got me thinking. And I think that it's probably a hybrid of that. And I think he's mostly right in the sense that they built the system loosely because they wanted to be able to exploit it.
Yeah, so let me give you an insight on the internal workings of what tech people think it is. Move fast and break things.
Right.
And that's what they think. That's their mantra. It doesn't matter what those things you break are. Move fast and break things. That's what they're doing. They have no. The thing is, I agree with Fred that they didn't build it on purpose, let's say. They were corrupted into it, and maybe some of them haven't had an inkling of what they might want to do later,
Right.
because it does take planning to corrupt a system like this, especially so thoroughly. But like, let's take Jeff Bezos as an example. I don't think he meant to become an evil Lex Luthor like person in life. He wanted to open up an online bookstore and do some good, and he did for a very long time. And Amazon was a really good place for a very long time.
Yeah, it was.
But it's not anymore.
No.
It's not anymore. These companies, there is something that corrupted them, and it's either the amount of money or the access to power that they don't have to answer to anyone anymore, and they just let their inner demons out as ways to. And the thing is, they're inspired by sci-fi, where most of us are inspired by sci-fi, and we look at it and we go, oh, hey, cool, sci-fi, I want to go to space and like see what it's like and see what type of aliens are out there. They're like, no, I want to go to space so we can harness the sun and enslave people.
Yeah.
Or I want to make Alexa as a computer closest to the computer from Star Trek so that I can then enslave people.
Yeah.
That's their goal. They want to enslave us.
That's what I think you were getting at with Ellie, right? It's like there's a certain benchmark. Like there's always a point, and I wanna pull from my toolbox of philosophy examples, because there's in the Republic, there's a discussion that I'm going to paraphrase here because I am not capable of quoting Plato word for word. But there's a situation, and I think this actually highlights exactly what Ellie is getting at. And they're discussing, justice, and in terms of how people adhere to justice and why it exists and how you would have a moral code in a society. And the idea is that, well, you adhere to the code because there's consequences. So if you have a person and he's visible, say this person goes about their day and their life and they commit a crime, and they see that this person is stolen, well, that person is going to face consequences. Perhaps in this society, they cut off your hand for stealing. So this person doesn't want to lose their hand. and they can't steal, so they don't want other people to be able to steal, right? So it's not that, people don't want to steal as much as it's that people can't steal because you have a justice system that prevents them from doing so. And so Plato then goes to say, or it's Socrates just then goes to say, well, perhaps this one man has a cloak that makes him invisible. Will this man make the same decisions that he makes if he's not liable to a justice system? And the answer is no. The answer
we
is
see it all the time.
always no, unless you have a very strong moral compass and you have values. And even then, most people, like me and Nick included, we have no idea what it's like to reach that point where you actually have passed. Once you've donned the invisible cloak, we don't know what that's like, because only 800 people in the United States have ever made it to that point, right? There are only 800 something billionaires. And yes, we can include mega millionaires. I would say that, that as well. But there's a certain point where that invisible cloak is put on them. And once Jeff Bezos put on that cloak, it changed him entirely.
Yes.
So that's what this system offers them. Even the people with supposedly good intentions, once given the opportunity to circumvent consequence, we see a different type of person emerge, because humans operate on social contracts. It's the unagreed, it's the thing we haven't all verbally said, but we all agree that people shouldn't kill each other, because we all don't want to worry about getting murdered. So we are going to punish people who murder people because it makes us all feel safer, right?
Yes.
Like, that's just how it is. And we have to understand ourselves, and how humans mix with capitalism without oversight is a problem. And that's also, what we're seeing now is the complete lack of oversight, to the point where you have a capitalist system that is now turning back and providing the wrong kind of oversight, the oversight over the people.
Yeah. And so, like, it's what it is it flipped the system on its head in the end, because, like you said, there's a cloak. There's a cloak of almost invisibility that these people use, if we want to use that bigot J.K. Rowling's terms. Because she sucks too. Like,
she does suck.
Let's not give her any credit. She sucks. She fucking sucks. The Harry
I'm
Potter
referring
series,
to the cloak from the Republic, not from Harry Potter.
Yeah, let's be clear. We're not talking about J.K. bigoted Rowling and her bullshit transphobia, because you can't be afraid of trans people. You're just a bigot. Anyway, I'll tell you how I really feel about her someday.
Absolutely. We'll have to organize a different show as well, so we can chat outside of the sphere of Palantalk, because you and me both have a lot of things to say about a lot of things.
Oh yeah, and I wanna. We'll talk about that later too.
Yeah.
Because I think that's a great idea. But also, like, just going back onto this cloak idea.
Yeah.
Is, if we look at the cloak, like, is being philosophized about or pondered, I guess would be an easier term, or a simpler term. Pondered, they were pondering this idea that if, say, someone could put on a mask and hide behind a suit of armor and go to your front door and kick in your door with an M16 or an M4 or an AK-40 or a AR-15 with a badge and face masks on, they're more likely to do that if they're wearing a face mask than if not.
Anonymity.
If I explain that same situation again, but started with federal officers who are identifying themselves with visible ID and no face mask, hiding who they are, coming to your door with a warrant and knocking your door down, is very different than masked federal agents coming to your door with masks on and hiding themselves, because that gives them a freedom to do the most heinous things they want without any repercussions, because that mask says, I'm not me. It says I can be whoever the fuck I want to be. And that person in these situations tend to be vile and vicious.
Right. It allows us to be the worst of all the worst things that people are. Right. And one of the things I always hammer at the, Firebrand Project I talk about is understanding who people are and what people are is the best way to end up governing ourselves. If we build whatever system comes after this, we need to incorporate safeguards against ourselves and our own nature. And just understand. And that's one of the things I think AI would be phenomenal at is oversight over systems to keep people accountable, right? Imagine instead of using AI to surveil the population, we had AI algorithms built to monitor the SEC and highlight and track, uh, trading fraud, and market manipulation. All of a sudden, these guys would not be able to do what they're doing. Imagine you have an AI that scans every single bill submitted to Congress for things that are not adjacent to the bill. Yeah,
specifically religiously founded and not based in principled practices that are also non-religious and secular. Like, it could scan for those things. It could scan for hatred. There are predictive analytics that AI can be used for in a non evil profiling. Like, profiling is going to happen, but like with AI, but like you can use profiling for like good predictive. Like marketing does it all the time. That's literally how our stock exchange works at this point, is predictive analytics, which, oh, by the way, those predictive analytics require accurate government data to be fed back to it, and the government is loosening the restrictions on the reporting aspects of that data, which means the predictive algorithms are going to be less predictive and less correct, meaning
yeah,
we have worse AI models and we have worse algorithms that are trying to sustain and make us money, which seems like a great way to collapse an economy and collapse market if you want to replace it with something very techy like crypto to come in and just say wipe all the US dollar out eventually, which could be controlled by who fucking knows who. And like that idea of little mini generators and like Palantir, wrapping it into the overall talk of Palantir and like Palantalk, who controls the government and who just gave a juicy ass contract to Palantir?
right.
DHS and the Republicans. Like,
Yeah,
they're going to use this technology to create the most predictive policing and profiling systems they can. They're going to use it to control every single system they can. I looked at it on Monday's live when I did it. I was on Palantir's site, and you should just watch the marketing video that it is now, Shane. It's literally showing them in farmhouses and power sites and in your office buildings, and they don't market themselves as a defense contracting company anymore. They're strictly an AI company,
AI.
which
Mhm.
is scary as fuck because they're in every system. And when they're in every system, they get to corrupt it how they want to subtly underneath and shut things off when
Yes.
nobody is looking.
Yeah. Yeah. And in regards to like our foreign viewers, right? Like I recommend that if you look at your government, specifically Canada, because I haven't looked very hard, but it doesn't matter. Like if your government has a contract with Palantir, you are already well on your way to pacification of your country. Like I've been reading about the UK. It's looking a little sus over there. It's like it's not like watching what just happened to us. My viewers in the UK, like now is the time for major activism. I saw there was they put up a large banner in, and I want to say in London, that was basically like saying that this isn't like it was like this isn't anti-Semitism or something, basically condemning Gaza, and those people were arrested. And you're starting to see people be arrested a lot
Oh,
in the
the one,
UK for
the
protesting.
predator drone thing.
Yeah, yep,
Yeah. Oh, let's talk about that real quick. We got a couple more minutes before the top
yeah,
of the hour. Let's talk about that real quick.
yeah,
DHS has a policy explicitly saying that, one, they can use internal tech. Like, if you don't think predator drones are flying around the US, they have been for a while. It is a very massive violation of our First Amendment right. It is an incredible invasion into your privacy, your
yeah,
right to privacy, your right to free speech, right to movement, and right to not be monitored by your government, which is what free speech guarantees, is that you are not monitored by your government. Because if they're monitoring you thoroughly, you don't have freedom of speech or movement. You're just being controlled, and it's a threat. What they did, though, that is the concerning part, is DHS policy specifically says you cannot release video, surveillance video of any type to anyone without specific cause or reason. It is written into the fucking policy that what they did, the only reason that it could have been released was a threat. That is the only reason, is that they released it because they are threatening Americans, not that they are under threat, that they are creating the threat. The
Right.
government is flying predator drones, which, by the way, are used to target individuals from when we were in Afghanistan and stuff,
Yep.
using Palantir technology to target individuals and precisely kill them. It's
They're
almost like
assassination weapons.
it's the same tech that they use in Israel.
Yeah.
Most militaries use it, and it's on U.S. soil, and it's going to be used against U.S. citizens. It's not an if. It's already happening. It's being used, but they're going to weaponize it in a way that we're not ready for yet.
Yeah, and I think all the time, and something you see in Russia is the use of false flag operations, right?
Yes.
I'm waiting for the false flag operation that is going to really escalate what you're talking about, and there will be one, right? So, if for a government to really like they kind of tried to do that with LA and it just didn't work because there was so much, and that's also one of our best defenses against some form of a false flag operation is active documentation, right? One of the things
Yeah.
that stopped them from really escalating LA was the fact that they're saying it's a riot and people are dancing in the street and singing
Yeah.
and being a
The
community.
amount of pushback and the amount of visible joy and like acknowledgement that it wasn't a problem
Right.
is our superpower, citizen journalism.
Yeah. And
And
that
we're
was
now in the age of citizen journalism.
yeah, that's what me and Nick do here, at Palantalk. That's what him and Frederick do, and him and Lawrence, and him and Ellie, and that's what Banner and Backbone is. So there is a tremendous amount of power in pushing back with visibility, and you'll have the discussion that's coming, and that kind of is, well, what does this look like? And I've read a couple things about pacification of these countries in the past. And we're at a certain benchmark where, historically speaking, the only way to reverse this is not democratically, but through other means, right? So what we do have is an advantage. And while history is usually very much true, we also have to consider that the United States and technology has changed so rapidly in 20 years
Yes.
that there is very much a possibility for other options under these circumstances, but they have to be properly leveraged. And if they're not, because we are fighting what we have to fight back is the very same thing that's being used against us. And it's about identifying the weapon. It's about identifying the strategy. And as someone who is in the Army, Nick very much understands that to win, you need to understand your enemy. That's why interrogating them and getting accurate information on their movements, on their plans, is exceptionally important, because if we don't see what's being used against us, we have no chance of winning. So it's about
And as an addition to that, to build on that, it is also one of the most important concepts that I preach, that Shane talks about. But if you ask any other veteran that is on this platform that is advocating for democracy, we're going to give you all the same answers, peacefully and patriotically. We will exhaust every single peaceful option that we can before we fire a shot. Ever.
Absolutely.
One, because the US government will roll over individuals if they try to, but also a civil war, if it were to ever happen again. A second one is not North versus South. It is not the South versus the North. The largest group of MAGA that voted in this country are in California. It's a diversified group of people. It would be neighbors versus neighbors. It would be city versus city. And that's what the Trumps and robber barons and Teals, that's what they want us to do. The unexpected thing, the thing that actually wins us this war, are hearts and minds. Hearts and minds. It was the mantra of the US Army when we were in Afghanistan and towards the end of Iraq, and it's what got us out of Iraq. It's what won us Iraq and got us out, is hearts and minds. You win the hearts and minds of people by showing them we're people too, and we're humans, and we're going through the same shit, and they're about to be under attack in the exact same ways we are. Like, they're not safe. They're not in. They're the others too. They just don't know it yet. Like,
Right. It's the rich
our
and the
job,
poor.
yeah, it is class warfare. It is status warfare. It is billionaires and this tiny group of pedophiles and gross ass shitty people like Vladimir Putin and Bibi Netanyahu and Donald Trump and Peter Thiel and Elon Musk and JD Vance and Don Jr. and Eric Trump and all of them, Mike Huckabee, that whole group.
Yeah, you
Hey,
got
said, I'm
the
going to keep lumping you assholes in because there's a lot of you and you all suck. Oh, Stephen Miller, one of my least favorite human
the
beings.
toe duo, Stephen Miller and Russell Vought. They both look like a toe.
Yeah, Nosferatu and his fucking like bag of shit friend.
Yeah, a bunch
Whichever one you want to
a bunch
agree
of
is
pathetic
Nosferatu.
testicles that are
Yeah.
supposedly in charge. And I think the last thing before we hi Lisa, the last thing before I think we transition to the best part of Palantalk would be that they're understanding kind of what we saw in the class warfare. This is something me and Nick talked about, but there's very simple things you can do to push back. And you always want to end any of these discussions with action items, because it is terrifying that they're doing this to our environment, that there's factors that we cannot control, that we are going to have to adapt to and do everything in our power to stop. And that means if you live in one of these areas where they're building a plant, get your community together and go and protest at the site. Make it visible that you do not want this to happen, that they are not going to poison you in the dark, right? Like in your communities, in these places, it's activism. But you know what? Even better, every single one of you in that crowd, wear a cap and a mask, because you're united. You're not individuals, you're united. And one of the things they're doing, we've talked about in the past, is using systems like Flock security to gather information on individuals, and to build individual profiles for predictive profiling, something Nick talks about a lot. The algorithm can predict your actions and your movements and, aggregate data about you. So one of those things is using simple things to make it harder. I've talked about using cash. If you can avoid using your card, use cash. Nick mentioned they want to get rid of the dollar. Well, if they want to get rid of it, let's use it more. Like, it's very, very simple. And I mean, Nick, I know you talked about some other stuff the other day, and I want to let you, rattle that off as well.
I won't rattle off the whole thing that I did. Yeah. I am going to put show notes out from Monday's show still with a transcript with like good action items, because we went into a lot of detail on them. And I want to do some more shows like that because it got a lot of really good attention. And with you too, I want to go into those like shows where we just talk about the details of it, because people were asking like, why do this sort of thing? Why do I wear like mask or a hat or sunglasses? Like, does it mean I'm hiding myself? And my answer to all of that is no. You are not hiding yourself. You are making yourself less visible during a time of fascism when you're in public. But when you're in private, and this was the thing I left everybody with, is when you're in private and you're with your friends and you're with your community and you're with a safe space that isn't trying to hurt you, because that's what we're trying to build, our places that are not that actively try and support you, not just don't hurt you, but actively support you. Find your communities like that, and then be 100% or more of yourself. Be all of yourself you can be when you're where your communities are, where they're actively supporting and building each other, because that's where we grow power and solidarity together. And it loses political and politicization when we stand together as one, as a group of people that used to be separate, or that is visibly would be on the outside separate, but underneath are united. So you like we said, lessen your metadata. And we talked about what metadata was on Monday. And we'll go more into things like that and go on to the tech side of things and how it like deep into like some of these terms and where they go. But you're minimizing what they can collect about you, and you're maximizing how you can be impactful to your community. And my final thing, if before we switch into the final segment, which Shane, you get to lead this one off today, is shit, I lost my train of thought for a second. Is if you're in a democratic state and they're trying to get a plant like this built, lobby your Congress people with your voices and your phone calls and your emails and protests if they are Democrats too. Tell them that you don't want them to do this right now. Not that you don't want it, but that you don't want them to do it right now. That you want them to wait, that you think the time is wrong, that you think that the president is wrong, that you think that the people who are backing it and the regulatory backing for it is not in place, and that needs to be done first if we want to do it right. Apple didn't release a phone first. They were second to the market. But Apple is better than Samsung at a lot of things. Apple came out smooth when they first came out, specifically like when they first rolled out their tech. It was light years ahead of other phones because they waited a little bit longer to create the right thing. There's a model that I call in the tech side, and I know I'm going long for a second.
No, it's okay.
Is move fast and break things. I already said this. Apple was move deliberate and create things. We need to take the lesson from what Apple did when they first created things and move deliberately and create spaces for each other and create things that are safe for each other.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think there's like one last thing I think that you that reminded me of. And it's that, it's about advocacy, but like also think about this, like say you live downriver from a brownfield site that's full of nuclear waste, and you don't have to even talk politics. You just be like, hey neighbor, MAGA neighbor, do you not want cancer? I don't want cancer. Did you know they're pumping carcinogens into the river we pull our water from? Are you cool with that? I'm not cool with that. We should probably do something so we don't die. That's not a conversation that's political. That's straight up survival, right?
Yeah.
That's straight up survival. So,
yeah, no politics there. Just no politics. Humanity.
It's called, we don't want cancer. We don't want to die. So
do you like cancer? I don't like cancer. We could bond on not liking cancer.
Like it's straight up, it's so easy at this point to find common ground because they're trying to kill you. So, it's there again. Never forgive them, but like if you want to shut down that nuclear plant that's gonna pollute your area, or that super area that they're gonna use to, upend all this radioactive waste, you might need them. So stand on the other side of the freaking protest. But the more bodies you have there, the freaking better. And with that, I am done with my my Palantalk normal
and from
stuff.
There,
for our favorite part of the show.
And from there, we boldly change our background to where no one has gone before. Space.
Welcome to space, where we get away.
There are people who have gone into space. We just haven't gone very far. So we're not quite there yet, but we're getting there, y'all. But if we could send Elon there first, though, and just let him drift, maybe put him in one of his little Teslas and just shoot him out there so that he can find the other little Tesla that's out there.
That's what I was saying. I don't know why he didn't get in the driver's seat of that first one and just take himself to space.
He wanted to go to Mars. He could have just fucking launched himself, tested out the suit himself. He's so about that shit.
Just go
shoot yourself into the sun, dude.
Probably,
everybody will applaud you.
You'll
be a hero.
He was probably the most acceptable figure out of everybody. Like before that, like I never hated Elon Musk until like everything started. Like I was like, EVs and whatever. Like he had some shitty business things, but like generally speaking, like his strategy and whatnot. But like Tesla was cool, SpaceX was cool, and I was like, we do need to, it was on the right track for exploration, in my opinion, and science technology. And for our conversation, my
Yeah.
challenge to you is I would like to hear about your favorite sci-fi tech. What's your favorite like form of like crazy sci-fi technology that is like totally out there that you think would be most beneficial to humanity? Like if we were to get out into space, what kind of tech should we prioritize to really get out there or
Oh, to
establish
get
ourselves?
into space, to establish ourselves in space, I think near term, the coolest sort of tech that we could really reach for that is actually like tangible for us in the near term would be artificial gravity tech
Mm-hmm.
and creating not quite Dyson, maybe Dyson spheres of sorts, but geotech or not, but we need some sort of gravitational tech that's better than what we have. And to be totally honest, I actually think the thing that would revolutionize space is battery technology, is better battery technology because our batteries fucking suck right now. Like, seriously, the worst. We are, I know this isn't specifically space, but we're over 15 years behind the technological growth curve for batteries by 15 fucking years at this point. Like, we should have had a new battery tech like 15 years ago that could have revolutionized not lithium and not lithium ion things like that, but real battery tech. And I'm talking things that could be used in space, and this would change, fundamentally alter space, because it would allow us to have a rechargeable and reusable like energy source that does not require rocket fuel
Yeah.
or momentum. um, or if it does require momentum, you can use it for long-term storage capacities, because our batteries right now are what limits a lot of our technological growth. For green tech
Yeah.
is we don't have batteries that can charge things correctly or maintain a charge. They're
That's yeah.
working on that sort of technology. Like I think Oxford has been working on it for a while now. Is a silicon-based battery, um, which has a 3,000% yield on its lifetime and charge,
Yeah.
and its storage. Like 3,000% increase on battery lifetime. Like lithium ion batteries last 100 years, maybe. Like I
Yeah.
think that's like the max they could last,
Yeah.
because of half life and stuff. But like
Yeah.
that's what I'm excited about is battery tech
And Lisa,
and
I just
geo
want to
and like gravity tech.
yeah, Lisa, I just want to address your comment because I never want to like be perceived as naive. And when I was talking about Elon in particular, I'm not talking about any time in like the last 10 plus years, right? I'm talking about when I was like in high school and I saw like, them investing in space, and as a space nerd seeing that like more rockets were going into space and like that electric cars, and I care about the environment, all those things obviously
A
under
surface
scrutiny.
level care.
Yes, obviously under scrutiny, all of that breaks apart, and you see the terrible, horrible person he is.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to address that because I
We'll
know.
have an episode about him
Yeah,
specifically,
absolutely.
because I've read and listened to a couple of his biographies. And if you had read them, and I know you were in high school at the time, which is why you didn't,
Yeah,
and you were probably busy reading other things because you're into philosophy and like real writing, and readings, is Elon is a shitty ass person the whole
terrible.
way through, the whole
Yeah,
time. Like I read his books like when I was getting into the tech field just to see if I'd want to work at one of his companies, and the first thing I knew was how abusive of a he's such an abusive person. Like
yeah,
his personality is so abusive.
yep.
But
Well,
anyways, we don't want to
I,
talk about him.
I
We're
don't
here
want
for
to. Yeah,
space.
anyway, I just wanted to address
But
that.
yeah,
But my tech. So there's a couple things in terms of tech in space that I think are huge. Um, One of them on the more realistic and actively going scale that we've seen real tests is laser powered like space flight. So they have tech at this point where
yeah,
they shoot a laser at some form of reflective vessel. I'm going to say vessel, but like a satellite or something, and they can accelerate that object to very, very close to the speed of light, right? Because we're talking about lasers. Lasers are a form of light. So they're able to use that. And these things have to be very small and very light. But they were talking about being able to send a swarm to Alpha Centauri in timelines of like 100 years, which is like nuts, right?
Yeah,
Like they were able to get that far. And I do think that we are much closer to light speed travel than we think we are. Because
I
I
could see
think
that.
that I think conceptually where we are in terms of science with funding, with real R&D and real funding, what
Basic
we
research. This would be called basic
basic
research,
research.
as Pete Buttigieg talks about, is basic research. I know Pete is in the news for reasons, and he's has some opinions that are controversial right now. But we Pete Buttigieg has some incredibly fucking smart ideas, and we should not be discounting Pete at the moment on especially on issues like this. He knows what he's talking about, and it's basic fucking research. That's what this is. It's investing our tax dollars as a government because it's not a business; it's a service. Government isn't a business; it's a service, and the service
Right.
that they are creating would be light speed fucking travel. Like that would be the coolest service ever, aside from building or finding a Stargate in Antarctica or somewhere
Yeah.
nearby. Like the coolest thing we could do is build a fucking light speed ship. Like as long as it's not Event Horizon light speed where they fold space and you go through hell and you come back out where like you're ripping your eyeballs out, or you have like this
Yeah.
warp time thing that's like eating people and you're speaking backwards Latin. And why hell is in Latin, I don't understand, because they weren't even speaking that at the time that Jesus was around. It would be in Aramaic or something, which, so like, let's not even talk
Yeah.
about how hell
And
got
like
into Latin.
even like time, right? Like if you can move at the speed of light, it opens up
Hmm.
options for time. Like you're able to potentially move back and forth in time because light can move
Really,
across
I think
through
the first
time.
thing is, sorry, I interrupt on
No,
all the time. I'm
that's
sorry,
okay.
brother.
These are things we're passionate about. You have
I
ideas.
think the thing is the like time travel is one of those that's really interesting because we've actually already achieved it. We've achieved time travel backwards.
Yes.
Most people don't realize is those who go into space and live on the International Space Station have a slightly different perception of time
Yep.
because of gravity. Relative gravity to the sun and the earth is very complex, and there's a lot of math in it, which is why most MAGA don't understand it, because it's more than 2 plus 2 equals 4, or 1 plus 1 equals 2. Like sometimes that's hard, but it's because of relativistic science and gravity and the theory and gravity itself. Like people who go into space and live in the orbit of the earth, who are rotating around the earth at a slower speed than the earth, are going backwards in time relative to the earth. It is proven because we had twins. We had the Kellys. One went up to space, the other didn't. And they are biologically not the same age that they were relative to each other anymore. That
Yeah.
gap has grown backwards. One is now older because the other slowed in their aging. Like we've already achieved time travel. We just
Yeah.
don't realize it or call it what it is and think about it on those scales because it's not what we thought it would be yet. We're
And
not
think
going
about
forward.
gravity tech, right? Like you're talking
Yeah.
about gravity tech. What does gravity provide? It provides a opportunity to actually manipulate time and how time works because gravity is the major influencer on time. That's how time, if you're looking at the forces that directly impact time, right? Like for example, if you went to the moon and you lived there, they would
Yeah.
age differently, right? You would
Yep.
age differently than
Just like
someone
you
on
would
Earth.
weigh differently because gravity has a different force and pull on your body. Yeah.
And so you have all kinds of real world tangible examples of actually what we've achieved. To your point, is we inadvertently achieved time travel. When we built the International Space Station, we weren't like we want to age people differently. But when you analyze and you discover these things and you explore, it's amazing what we have. And even they're still studying data that came from 1970s space missions and flybys of Venus and Saturn. And they're finding new things in those data sets because as we have new forms of analysis, we can, analyze through different spectra of light. They can
Mm-hmm.
run these images differently. They're able now to find specific elements based on like a pixel that is from 1970, right? So
which is
like
super fucking cool.
it's so cool. Like, how do they even like? This is what we're capable of, right? So like we've devolved ourselves to this, whatever we're dealing with in America, but we're capable of so much stuff. And
Like to cut you off for a second, a few years ago we were talking about the Large Hadron Collider in Europe and making mini black holes on Earth, and like, would that destabilize Earth's gravity, or what would happen there? We don't even have topic conversations about that anymore, because they're like, yeah, whatever. Like, who gives a shit if we're trying to figure out like what happens? We figured out a new particle. Like, we found a new particle like
was
two
it the
years,
Higgs
3 years
boson?
ago.
What is
Yeah,
it?
the Higgs boson. We actually proved that it existed. Like, we proved fundamentally a new piece of physics, and nobody celebrates shit like that anymore because we're too worried about blowing each other up with nuclear bombs and sending ourselves, like Einstein said, World War III will be fought with unknown weapons, but World War IV will be fought with sticks and stones, because that we're going to blow ourselves to fucking oblivion instead of doing the right thing, which is, use our tech for good and go to space and do cool ass shit. Where, who doesn't want to go and see if aliens are actually out there? Like, I'd love to know if the xenomorph or predators are out there. I love those movies. One, I don't want to meet them, but I want to know if they're out there. Like, I want to know if the Klingons are out there, like the Vulcans. What happens if we actually do achieve faster than light travel and a species does come and find us? It's the Fermi paradox. It's when we hit faster than light travel, other species go, hey, look, you're evolved enough to come see us. Now we see you, you see us. And all of a sudden, the skies open up. The
Yeah,
sky
anything.
is going to open up to us the second we figure out faster than light technology. And we were so fucking close. We're still so close, because now, guess what? We are at the age of quantum computing too. And we haven't even gotten into that. And God, that's a really scary topic that we could possibly get into eventually.
Yeah,
But really cool.
it's really cool.
Like,
It's all really cool. It's about using, you give a man a hammer, he can build a house or he can bash his neighbor's head in, right? Like you
yeah.
have it's a choice. It's always a choice. But, you know, so we just talked about like more tangible things. But what is your like favorite, most outlandish thing
Oh,
you've
most
seen in all of
outlandish.
sci-fi? Like just absurd, like probably like not even real or possible, but that someone conceived of that you're like, that's just the coolest thing ever.
That is, you know what? That's an easy question. The lightsaber. That's my favorite tool and weapon of all time, is the lightsaber. I grew up watching Star Wars and Star Trek,
Yeah,
and I love both. But the thing about Star Wars is it had lightsabers. I always wanted to be a Jedi, like a
of
real
course.
Jedi who could lift and make things go and do amazing, like cool, super shit. Like, but I just wanted the lightsaber. I just wanted to be able to, one, not cut my own damn fucking arm off or head off while I'm spinning it around and being super cool. Because watching the videos of the people who actually use like the neat lightsabers, like the just light up ones, and are really good at it, it's so neat to watch those folks, like
Oh
super
yeah.
cool. And we are so close to making it real. They're making lightsabers. Like, people are actively making proto sabers right now. Like, so in Jedi tech, in outlandish technology, like we want to talk about outlandish technology, like Star Wars, the early Jedi's made what are called proto sabers. Proto sabers are lightsabers that required a battery pack,
Yep.
an energy source pack, to sit with you. Guess what? We have
We have
those.
those.
We
I've
literally have those. They
I've
have
seen them.
invented a proto saber. You can go on YouTube and find them. And it's something to do with the way that they like contain protons and electrons into a static field. It's so beyond the science that I understand, and I won't even pretend to know the
Yeah.
concepts that they're using, but I do know that it's super cool physics, and they can literally cut through shit with a contained beam of light that is not encased in something else, like a real lightsaber.
Yeah.
They've made those, a
Yeah.
proto saber.
And
That
we
is the
see
next step. That's the first step to having real lightsabers. Like, I just want lightsabers.
right.
Then
And
someone can just walk by and just accidentally go like this in a big circle with a room full of billionaires, and we're done with our problem.
Absolutely. Or you could just be like, "Oh, you guys are up in the top room of the penthouse at Trump Tower. What if I just force pushed all of you out of the window?"
Yeah,
You
what if
know?
I accidentally took my two lightsabers and just cut through these rebar beams in the
Yeah,
middle of the tower
exactly.
here and see,
Exactly.
does that affect your floor stability? Will that fall in now on you?
For me, I think the most crazy outlandish tech
Yeah.
that I thought and what prompted me to whole start this is you said a Dyson sphere. I
Hmm.
think the concept of a Dyson sphere is it's like if we can construct a Dyson sphere, we have achieved peak evolution, technological evolution. Because if we can harness the energy of a star, it means that
Literally a
we
star.
we are able to control entire solar systems, entire bodies, right? We're able to manipulate, and that's infinite energy. And when I say infinite, I'm meaning billions of years, because even stars, collapse on themselves and become supernovas and destroy everything.
Yep.
Or they get older and slower, and then they spread out and eat everything around them. Stars should not scare you, because you'll never see a star change. Like, we'll never see a star change, but they are
We might.
scary in theory. They're crazy. It's like,
That's not true. We do see star changes. We've seen the effects of supernova over the year because of a
yeah, that's
star.
true. I'm meaning more in, like, don't be afraid of the sun. Like,
Yeah, 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 yeah.
sometimes,
The sun ain't gonna change in our lifetime, so don't be afraid of
no,
it. Like
don't be afraid of the
it's
sun.
not going, it's not gonna get big, and our sun's not big enough to go black hole. It'll collapse into like a
Red,
white dwarf,
is it a
red
white
dwarf
dwarf?
or something,
Yeah.
because we have a fairly small minor sun. Um,
See you later.
but yeah, later, Sin. Thanks for coming. Um, but yeah, that was Dyson spheres are really cool.
I think it's
And do you remember I think it was 2 years ago now, maybe, there was news, there were some stars that they had captured in one of the, I think on Hubble. It was before James Webb came online. There was some stars that they had captured, and then it looked like the star sort of disappeared, almost like it just blinked out, like or like something was around, like something was inhibiting it from being seen. And there was a lot of conspiracy they were looking at a Dyson sphere from afar, from like millions of light years away.
my
um
immediate theory would be that those stars were orbiting a black hole, and
yeah,
that they
or
were.
had some sort of gravitational pull that was impacting their light. Yeah,
Yeah, it's very, like, because, like, I would think, like, that, and black holes in themselves, it's not technology, but, like, that's a pitfall. Like, you could talk about black holes forever, right? Like, the theory that our universe could be in a black hole, because what
I
happens
do
when a
like
black
that
hole
theory.
gets big enough, like, because it's like, oh, why did the universe come and expand from 13 billion light years? Well, what if it fell into a black hole and then immediately began to expand, because under the pressure inside the black hole, it can get it, and then boom, the black
Yeah,
hole has its
it's the
own.
idea. Yeah, because the black hole is the Big Bang. Like
Right,
a black hole formed, and when everything got sucked into it and it exploded into existence, that Big Bang on the other side of the black hole, because the black
right,
hole's got to go somewhere. Like
right,
we just don't know where, because we can't go into one, because we don't know how the gravity would actually affect us. But I love that theory because it's tangibly real. Like you can imagine it very easily to be true,
right.
and I love it. It's why I like string theory too, because it
Yes, I
connects.
love string theory. I love string theory. Like,
All right,
there's it.
all
I
right.
know it's time.
Yeah,
We're an hour and a half.
we've been on it for an hour and a half, y'all. We could talk for fucking ever. Shane and I could talk forever.
I
I
know it.
think I'm gonna try and organize a show with you, me, and Jake on it too,
Okay.
just to pal around and get you to
Absolutely.
know them. But I also want to get you on with Frederick Pogue and Lawrence Winterman
Yeah.
and the rest of the team over at Banner and Backbone. Um, and thanks everyone. Like
Yeah.
holy shit, this is always fun.
Yeah.
Shane, I enjoy talking to you a lot, brother.
Absolutely. It's
So
something I
um,
look forward to every week. And obviously, we're over on Sick of This Shit with Nick, but I have my own publication as well. It's gonna be the Firebrand Project. I know a lot of you folks are from over there as well, but if you haven't seen me before, because I know Nick is on fire right now, the Firebrand project is something that I've been building for a while. You heard me talk about philosophy a couple times. I give everything, a little bit of a Socratic lens. I think hearts and minds are absolutely the way that we win this battle, and it's about how we have these discussions and talk about it. So, if you like Palantalk, if you like kind of hearing me and Nick talk, well, there's a lot more, of kind of my ideas and what I'm sharing. I do brutally honest messages where I just kind of give it to you guys the way I see it. And I actually published one yesterday that is about American apathy that I really highly recommend that all of you go and read, because I think it's very pertinent in our moment, kind of confronting that apathy. But I would really appreciate it if you guys came on over to the Firebrand Project as well, and keep supporting all of us. Like, keep supporting Nick. Go check out Banner and Backbone, because it's definitely going to be a big deal here, and I'm grateful to be part of that as well. And I really look forward to seeing you in the next Palantalk or the next show, wherever I get to hang out with Nick. And I also do lives as well. So if you're interested in kind of my process and how I tackle the news and how I look at things, feel free to come on over there and join the Firebrand Project, where we all burn bright, including over here on Sick of This Shit with Nick.
Yeah, and I know Shane's not linked on the live on Substack right now, but I'll make sure he's linked in the show notes, so y'all can easily follow him. Please do subscribe to his stuff. He's a great writer. He's got great ideas. He's a young man who's doing some shit that's right, and he's putting a good face on what men can look like. So
Absolutely.
Join him, join us, and thanks, y'all. We'll be back again for another Palantalk. Thanks, Shane.
All right, take care.